Joe Burrow's injury is a nightmare for the Cincinnati Bengals. How long will he be out? A medical expert breaks that down. Plus, is Burrow the next Andrew Luck? That and more right now on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He's Andrew Fox Miller. Catch us every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern right here on the YouTube channel Cincinnati Bengals Talk weekly on FanDuel Sports Network. We're proudly brought to you by FanDuel, Garage Beer, and Lakespur Marketing. Shout out to our sponsors and shout out to you. We're not going anywhere. Joe Burrow might be hurt, but guess what? We're going to be with you all season long. So thank you so much for your support. And Andrew, let's dive in because Joe Burrow is hurt and he could miss the entire season. This isn't just as simple as he will be back in December, despite that 3-month scenario that has been discussed. And we're going to hear from Brandon Bowers in just a minute on the injury. But when it comes to Joe in this injury, and now that you've had a few days to process it in your mind, what are your thoughts? I haven't actually gotten your thoughts. You've heard a lot of mine, but what are your thoughts on this?
I feel a lot like Ted Karras did in the locker room after the game on Sunday. We're going to eulogize Joe for days now. And I can't believe we're doing this heading into week 3. On the one hand, I can't believe it. On the other hand, when he went down and the injury itself happened, everybody's heard it recapped. We know what happened there. But in my head, I was like, this feels weird. It felt weird with the wrist injury. This also felt weird. And I didn't like that feeling. And I especially didn't like that it really became a reality. These injuries aren't simple. The ACL, 300 plus pound man fell on his leg. That's simple to me. I mean, relatively speaking, we know what that is. The wrist thing, unprecedented. This turf toe for a quarterback feels and has been labeled pretty much as unprecedented or very, very rare at most. So why is it always these very obscure injuries all of a sudden? Never mind injury prone. It's like complex, obscure. Everyone's got to wrap their head around it. And you got to like take actual medical classes and have a degree to understand these injuries that Joe Burrow is getting. Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks. There's no way around it. It's a rare injury and it is unique and it isn't something we see every day, especially with quarterbacks, especially with quarterback needing surgery this early in the season. And so who knows if we see him the rest of the year. I did catch up with Dr. Brandon Bowers, and this entire interview is going to be posted on our channel on Wednesday. So if you're watching before Wednesday, well, the entire thing is going to be ready for you this week. But I asked Brandon about this recovery timeline. Is 3 months way too optimistic? Is it realistic? What's treatment going to be like? And how quickly could Joe Burrow get back if the Bengals are in the playoff hunt? Here's what Dr. Brandon Bowers had to say.
I think the 12 weeks that we've seen from the national pundits all across ESPN and other outlets, if everything goes perfect, I think 12 weeks can happen. If there's any sort of hitches in the giddy-up or snags along the way, I do think it takes a little bit longer than that. I think the Bengals also have to consider as they get later into the season to a week 16, 17, and 18, what their playoff picture position is. And is it worth it if he's close to ready or good enough to be ready to play? Is it worth it to trot him back out there if they're on the cusp of the playoffs? But I think 12 weeks at minimum is accurate. I do believe it may take a little bit longer than that, but a lot of factors to weigh in here.
It sounds like it's realistic to think that Joe could return at some point this season, assuming the Bengals are playing meaningful football. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. Again, to the point that I made earlier, I think over the next 12 weeks, the timeline that was given initially, I think everything needs to go right for him to have a chance if the Bengals are playing meaningful football. If there's any sort of setback in his rehab or something gets worse or something else flares up, then I think that 12-week timeline is out the window and we can put a bow on Joe Burrow's 2025 season. But if everything goes right, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. I think the chance is just very small.
Good stuff there. Like I said, that entire interview with Dr. Brandon Bowers is going to be posted on our channel on Wednesday. All of the insight you need on Joe Burrow, on his health, on his recovery. And hopefully we see him again this season. But naturally, Andrew, the conversation shifts. And I was consuming all of as much content as I could on Monday, trying to digest it, trying to wrap my head around it as well. And the Andrew Luck comparison, well, it was tossed out there again, and it was tossed out there on social media. It was tossed out there by national media, and it's pretty simple. Andrew Luck, former number 1 overall pick, was someone who took the torch from Peyton Manning and kept the Colts not just relevant, but Super Bowl contenders. And he retired after 6 seasons, retired after 174 sacks, and was pressured 28% of the time. And he dealt with a bunch of injuries and decided enough was enough. And people were wondering if Joe Burrow is going to do the same because his contact percentage is the same or nearly the same as Andrew Luck. He's been sacked 201 times to 174 times. So that's 27 more sacks that Joe Burrow has taken than Andrew Luck. And by the way, his pressure percentage, pretty much the same at 27%. So I'm going to ask you, do you think Joe Burrow is trending toward being the next Andrew Luck, a quarterback that walks away in his prime because of all of the injuries?
Now, you say it's pretty simple. It's as simple as you want it to be, people, the ones that are out there making the comparison. I understand Andrew Luck and Joe Burrow comparisons, but like both have unfortunate injury history. Both saw a concerning amount of pressures and sacks, sure. Both have a history of playing behind an O-line that is viewed as below average or at times worse than the league, you could argue. The narrative with this is Joe Burrow, the next Andrew Luck. Like, it's not so simple, though. I mean, both of these quarterbacks, they absorbed punishment, but they absorbed punishment differently. You can say that the Bengals need to do more with investing in their O-line, and I would agree with that, by the way. You can't say that the Bengals haven't tried, though. They've just whiffed on decisions they couldn't afford to whiff on. Look at Andrew Luck from 2012 to 2015. The Colts, I saw this stat the other day. They drafted just 3 O-linemen before round 7. To compare that to Burrow's first 3 years, the Bengals drafted 5 O-linemen before round 7. And that's not counting, obviously, those round 7 picks that we can talk about as well. And they made moves in free agency. Again, some of those just didn't pan out. Could they do more? Absolutely. And by the way, Andrew Luck hurt himself snowboarding. Like, Joe Burrow, as far as we know, isn't doing that. He's walking runways in Paris or at worst throwing some rough pitches at Fanatics Fest or whatever. It's different. And the injuries themselves, different. If we want to keep it to its most simple, could Joe Burrow retire because he's tired of being in rehab? Maybe. And then fine, we'll compare it with Andrew Luck. But I feel like that's really what you can drill it down to at best.
He could. You're right. He could retire. And so if people say, oh, well, he could, well, coulds and woulds and shoulds and wills, they're much, much different, right? I could retire too. I guarantee you I'm not going to. Joe Burrow's not.
You might.
I have zero plans to. I love what I do. And you know who else loves what he does? Joe freaking Burrow. And that's why this is a dumb comp. Anyone that knows Joe Burrow knows that he, to a fault, so much so that the conversation this week has been like, oh, well, Joe needs to be protected from himself because he extends plays, even though the play he got hurt on. And we had a really nice breakdown of that on Tuesday afternoon. Check it out on our channel. We're just plugging everything we had this week because, well, let's be honest, a lot of you have made ground sweeping conclusions when it comes to Joe Burrow's injury, and you didn't even go back and watch the play. We did it for you, did the research. Make sure you check it out on the YouTube channel, Cincinnati Bengals Talk. All right, Andrew, here's the difference. Is Joe Burrow is obsessed. He doesn't love football. He's obsessed with it. I don't think he loves anything else. Might like a lot of things and might like the whatever lady is in his life right now.
Super Smash Brothers.
Might like Super Smash Brothers and playing piano and hanging out with his friends and being able to go to restaurants and eating in peace. I think he likes doing those things, right? But guess what? He loves football. He breathes football. He can't get enough of the competitive side of things. I think back to some of his interviews where he's been I forget, it might've been the Pardon My Take guys. I forget exactly what interview it was, but it was like, would you take a Super Bowl this year or 8 MVPs? And he said, well, do I get to play that 9th season and have a shot at a Super Bowl? Like he's always thinking that way. This is the same guy that I heard his father after he tore his ACL in Washington as a rookie. And it's this devastating injury. And he's riding the highest of highs from the Heisman Trophy to being the number 1 pick to being the resurrector of the Bengals. And now suddenly he has this debilitating injury. He's talking about how they were carving up Washington and moving the ball pretty well. And that wasn't an offense that was really good. That's rookie T. Higgins and A.J. Green, who scored his only touchdown that year from Joe Burrow, his only touchdown ever from Joe Burrow in that game before Burrow got hurt. And he's talking about how successful the offense was. He's just different. He's just different. And that doesn't mean, that's not a knock on Andrew Luck. It's more like Joe Burrow is so obsessed to a fault that I could never see him walking away at 28. Not from a turf toe injury where he's going to make a full recovery. Spoiler on the Brandon Bowers. He's going to make a full recovery, even if he doesn't come back this year. Just because this unprecedented thing where Andrew Luck walks away and he's got his whole prime ahead of him, that doesn't mean that Burrow is the next guy. It doesn't mean that the Bengals don't need to change either. Of course they do. But Burrow is not walking away. I will eat all of the words in the world.
You'll retire.
Zero chance. So you're not going to get me to say that, but zero chance he walks away. I'm letting it zero. And there are so many other scenarios that would happen and it would transpire before that one did.
Okay. I hear you. That's a tough one to put on a stat sheet, but I know exactly what you're saying.
This is what all the networks should say. James Rapien says Joe Burrow is not going to pull an Andrew Luck. That's what they should use.
Or he'll retire.
Stop trying to do that. I'm not that type of, I'll do this if that. No.
That's how you set up this premise. I'll do this if that.
I will run here you go. I'll run the Flying Pig Marathon without training at all.
You've done it before.
At 30,
much younger man.
Yeah. People don't know that. 34 years old now. I'll do that. Man, I haven't ran a full mile.
And I'll film it. I'll document it.
But I'll do that in April. I promise you. There we go. That's something that I get without training. I will not train. I will do it.
Everyone's dying to see you run a race, James.
That's intense to not do it without training. Anyways,
I know.
The point is it's not going to happen, but we have more to get to, including a Bengals offensive lineman that takes blame for the Joe Burrow injury. We will get to that coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. And one of the main topics throughout the Joe Burrow tenure has been the offensive line. And the offensive line not protecting Joe. Well, Dalton Risner took full blame for Joe Burrow's injury. You're going to hear from Dalton coming up in just a second. This segment brought to you by Lakespur Marketing. If you're looking to scale your marketing, let the Lakespur Marketing team be your trusted marketing agency. They have a broad range of experience, regardless of the industry. Lakespur Marketing prides themselves on building partnerships. They are confident they will deliver results. The proof is in their partners, and it's about the relationship with their clients with Lakespur Marketing. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today. And Andrew, like I said, Dalton Risner, he took blame. I went up to him in the Bengals locker room on Monday, and I just asked him what went through his mind when he found out that Joe got hurt. I didn't ask him, hey, why was it your fault? What happened on that play from your perspective? None of that. And he took blame for the injury to Joe Burrow.
Oh, super upsetting. I mean, I'm pretty much a big reason why he did get injured. So, came here to protect a guy, and I didn't protect him on a play. And I know that's football, but I definitely carry a lot more weight and beat myself up because it's my guy that made the sack on him. So tough deal for sure.
Look, I think a lot of people are going to love the accountability, and that entire conversation was posted on our YouTube channel. But boy, oh boy, it's a tough situation. Dalton Risner signed a couple of weeks ago, and to go from that to playing in week one because of an injury to Lucas Patrick and then starting this past week. I mean, it's a tough, difficult situation. And I feel for him, and I feel for the entire offensive line because I know they're not feeling good or warm and fuzzy about the situation. They feel terrible.
Your offensive line, anytime your quarterback goes down like that, you're going to blame yourself collectively or individually. I think you mentioned with Risner, though, I haven't seen any headlines. I haven't seen anything really on social media, message boards, any of that. I don't see people with pitchforks out for Dalton Risner. For what it's worth, I think a lot of it's being aimed at whether it's front office, coaching, people that could have made decisions that could have had Dalton Risner in that building sooner and more prepared and truly have some depth heading into week one of the season. And do I really blame it solely on that myself? Not entirely.
Yeah, for sure. And just stinks. It stinks. It stinks for the guys that signed because Burrow was here. Noah Fant's a big one, right? Dalton Risner is one of those. And who knows? Maybe Joe comes back. But where are the odds? How have the odds shifted since Joe Burrow went down? We're going to dive into those, from their Super Bowl odds to their chances of winning the division to their odds of beating the J.J. McCarthy-less Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. We will look ahead to week 3 coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He's Andrew Fox Miller. And boy, oh boy, I can't believe week 3 is here. And I am surprised at all the movement. There's been a lot of movement. It went one way when Joe Burrow got hurt, and now it's kind of come back the other way a little bit. Not as much, not as drastic, but we're going to dive into the odds courtesy of FanDuel in just a second. And FanDuel's obviously got you ready for the NFL season with an offer that you don't want to miss. Week 3 is here, and new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet $5. If it wins, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app, from parlays to player props. You can ride the lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. And all you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/bigplay. That's FanDuel.com/bigplay to get that $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, FanDuel.com/bigplay. In Ohio, you must be 21 plus and present in Ohio. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And Andrew, let's dive in, courtesy of FanDuel, to these odds. The Bengals Super Bowl odds, well, they were one of the favorites, one of the, I would say, top 8 to 10 teams from a Super Bowl odds standpoint, really all off season, and certainly starting 1-0. Well, they fell to plus 8,000 Super Bowl odds wise initially after that injury, and they've crept up, and now they're right around plus 6,500. That was at 7,000 at one point on Tuesday. Then it went to 6,500. So the Super Bowl odds certainly swinging, and I get why, and they should, without Joe Burrow on the Bengals and an injured Joe Burrow.
Yeah, odds makers know what they're doing. I can't even wrap my head around the idea of Super Bowl, conference, maybe division I could start looking into, but this specific game against the Vikings I find interesting. The Vikings don't have their starting quarterback, you mentioned, which might be a good thing for the Vikings based on J.J. McCarthy's performance last week. But look, McCarthy had more mobility than what the Bengals defense will see from Carson Wentz. So Jake Browning revenge game, part 2 against the Vikings. I think I'm taking the points with the Bengals on this one.
Yeah, I look at you every single week. Last week, you what was it, 3.5? You got it with the 4. You got it with the 4 last week.
Right. That's right.
The odds makers
working
are
towards
good,
my retirement, James.
That's right. Look, it's funny. This was 1.5 when Joe Burrow was scheduled to start before the week 2 games were completely complete. I think the Bengals probably end up favored in this game had Joe Burrow still been there. Instead, it's 3 points. It's gone back and forth. I think it's interesting. It's a really tough place to play. The Vikings are looking to bounce back. I don't have a real feel for it yet. I lean crowd and I lean Carson Wentz is just, he's almost scarier, you're right, than J.J. McCarthy, but they're dealing with multiple starters out at offensive line, Aaron Jones. So injuries on both sides, a hard matchup to predict, but certainly one we're going to have you covered throughout the week. But yeah, that's where the lines are going, because I can't wrap my head around even the division right now, given the Joe Burrow injury. But Jake Browning is at QB. He's officially QB1. Thoughts on Browning, and if he can keep the Bengals afloat, and who knows, maybe guide them to the playoffs. We'll dive into that coming up next. Welcome back to End of the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien, and the Bengals are 2-0 for the first time in the Zach Taylor era. They're confident in Jake Browning, sticking with him. They added a couple of quarterbacks to the practice squad on Tuesday, but Browning is the starter. Browning is their guy. Andrew, what's your confidence level in Browning?
I mean, going off of what Browning has done in the past, when Burrow went down in 2023, Browning went 4-3 as a starter, including completing 70+% of his passes for a pretty good quarterback rating too. My point is just that we're 2-0. Like, he's being handed 2-0, and it was not done easily. I get that. It's tough to envision this without Burrow for the foreseeable future. But this team, they kept their stars. They retained what they wanted to retain regarding Higgins, regarding Jamar Chase, Trey Henderson, especially Trey Henderson, this being his season for all we know with the Bengals. You go all in, you're going to have to go all in with Browning for the time being, and he did all right. This team is more than all right, especially on offense.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to pick him up some. He's going to have to be steady. He's going to have to be consistent and not have the turnovers that he had the other day. I think he knows that. And if he does that, they're a good enough roster and they have enough stars, especially on offense, to hang around and to be a solid team. I do not think they're a Super Bowl contender with Jake Browning. I don't think that they have the ceiling anywhere close to what they had with Joe Burrow. But can they be serviceable? Can they be fun to watch? Could they tread water if he was out for a month? Sure. What I think is interesting, can they do enough to where we had that conversation in December? Hey, is Joe Burrow close? Is Joe Burrow going to ramp up practicing? Is he going to try to go? Like, I think that would be the ultimate goal, 10,000 foot view for Jake Browning and this Bengals team, is getting to December where you're playing meaningful football. And if you do that, then who knows? Maybe you have a shot. But they are 2-0 for the first time in the Zach Taylor era. I know Zach wanted to make that. No, he's like, hey, we're 2-0. What's everybody? Well, it's because the franchise has heard, Zach. That's why. But regardless, we're going to have you covered every step of the way. And make sure you check us out. We had a ton on our YouTube channel this week, Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Until next time, for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Enter the Jungle.